You're listening to 88.2, the hottest frequency in the country right now. And you know that if we are the hottest frequency, it means we need to give you the hottest personalities. And today, we're hitting the kitchen in an interesting manner because this lady who's currently sitting in front of me is a dessert connoisseur, a self-proclaimed, dessert queen. And I do attest to that because if you've tasted her decadent pleasures, you definitely know that you are destined, to want more every single time. The one and only Neliswa Nkala, aka Mrs. M, who's going to join me in studio. Mrs. M, welcome to Neliswa FM.
Thank you for having me. That was such an introduction, but I'll take it.
With the work that you've done, you do need to stand into a room and be introduced. You no longer do those introductions.
I guess.
Do you think you still need to do introductions?
Yeah, I honestly do feel like there are still spaces where I reach out to or I get to and they still ask, who are you? So I always feel like it's only fair to just, always introduce yourself. You're never too big to introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah. Humble even. Right, let's take it way back. Let's take it to, growing up as Neliswa, growing up in a family with your parents and your grandmothers involved. Let's talk about, what childhood memories remind you of baking or cooking with your parents?
Now, this is a very interesting one because I was literally a troll in the kitchen. I hated everything that had to do with that. And I was raised by a single mother and I have 3 siblings, me being the 4th one. We're all women. So now the interesting thing was that my mother was a cook. She's the one probably that her talent rubbed off on me. But at that time, I really never appreciated anything to do with the kitchen. I was always running away. I was always the one that, was doing the craziest things. So I know, now I remember a little bit, bits and pieces of, her favorite dessert, which was the upside down pineapple cake. I've never made it before, but, for me, it's like a challenge to actually try and replicate that because now I only realize that, actually her talent, rubbed off on me. And I'm the one that probably, took it and ran with it. And all my sisters are equally great cooks and good bakes. It's just that, at that time when my mother was, still alive, she's late now. I was never there. I was never interested in that, So now it's really interesting for me to actually turn out to be the one that actually runs with it instead of all of my other sisters. But, having them in the background, to cheer me on and to encourage me, to teach me to, all of that. I think for me that kind of stands out as, a memory that I hold dearly, knowing that, we did have some great moments in the kitchen. For me, well, it mostly was licking the bowl or putting my mom's Tupperware in the oven and just doing all the crazy things. So I think, that would be probably the highlight of, great memories that I had.
And then one more question. I think she's also meaning to ask you, why haven't you made the upside down pineapple cake?
I think, in my memory, I wasn't even sure that my mother made that or she would order it, because I was so disconnected to the kitchen. And only now, when we have those conversations with my sisters and they remind me that, you remember the upside down pineapple cake? Mom used to always make that. And for me, it's like a light bulb moment, just realizing that, oh, okay, I missed out on all of that. So now I think it's my next thing and next challenge to actually replicate that, in honor of her and, just embracing that the talent, it rubbed off on all of us.
And then being raised in such an environment, you do say that you never thought it was rubbing on you up until later on.
Definitely.
Let's talk about the future. Do you think that you wouldn't be as surprised if your own kids do not take culinary as a work or as a career?
First of all, I do not consider myself somebody that is going to go through parenthood. But,
really?
If it does happen,
okay.
I'm one that just wants my children to spread their wings, if we ever get to that point.
Yeah.
And I do know that it's very much possible for them not to take it up. What if they take up, the tech side of things, from my husband, and then that's what it is. It's not everyone that can take up the arts. So I think I'd be very flexible with that, and just knowing that at least I did something, I left a legacy and something for my children. Yeah.
And then let's go back now to which year or which part in your life did you then realize that I don't want the 9 to 5 of being in an office. I just want to be in the kitchen, experiment, let my mind, just wander around what I can do in the kitchen. Which year or when in your life do you realize that culinary is something that you want to do as a life career?
I must say it was probably in 2018. That was probably the time where I felt a lot of pressure, even, just from myself, from the people around me, the people that were supporting the vision, the dream, and, the products. I think that was a mark because I'd already done some stuff before then.
Yes.
But at that point, and I was working, I was a financial analyst at that time, and I wouldn't say I was complaining with my job, but there is that certain fulfillment that you don't realize. And for me, it was always that void where I felt like I don't feel as fulfilled. And I wasn't sure whether it was because maybe I still need to do a lot of personal development, go through more studying and whatnot. And then I just sat down and did a self introspection and looked at what are the things that I do willingly, and things that I'm not even paid for, but I do willingly. And that is when I realized, okay, my passion and my love is actually with food. And I started working actively and vigorously towards that. And I think in 2020, beginning of 2020, that is when I actually took the jump to actually say, maybe it's time to actually try and pursue this on a full-time basis. And I actually did that.
And it's been amazing. I mean, we've been seeing the growth. We've been seeing you take over. And it's actually a beautiful, momentous moment to see and realize that you're currently taking up that space.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the figures that you look up to currently, that you recognize in the culinary space, that you envision yourself or envision the place of being exactly also.
Gordon Ramsay.
Ooh.
Without a doubt.
Is it the rudeness?
Definitely not that. However, I do understand, his technique and his way of doing things. And, when he does, speak about how he became who he became, he was also in a space that was really, hush, and it pushed him to become the person that he is. So I think for him, that is his leadership style, to actually say, apply pressure. There's no way that you're going to be groundbreaking. There's no way that you're going to make it if you're not, very vigorous and, apply so much pressure in what you do. So I guess probably that also, I feel like, I'm one person that sometimes, gets into slumps, and I'm a procrastinator, and I hate that about myself. But I mean, when I look up to people like him who actually apply pressure, the rudeness and everything, sometimes it does work, because it pushes you, it makes you realize, hey, there's nothing you're going to make, there's nothing you're going to succeed in if you just sit down and you don't apply pressure and you don't try and become somebody who is more than what you are. So I think for me, looking up to him, his journey, I've literally tried to even study, his life, how he became and where he is right now. And that is actually the path that I would like to follow. And it may look like an unattainable thing to do, but I think as a young Black woman, I feel like it is possible. I'm in a different continent and in a different context altogether. But I mean, if my goal and my, the person I'm looking up to is up there, that means the sky is the limit. Yeah.
Right. We're hanging out with Mrs. M. Mrs. M, I want us to take it all the way back. You did mention that one of the people that you look up to, Gordon Ramsay, the way he applies pressure and he's always on his toes, if I can put it like that. Yeah. Let's now put it in your context. You literally put yourself out there in 2022 when you entered for the Pick and Pay, culinary experience for the Luju, So that was an interesting moment to witness you, taking part of something so different. It's not necessarily, desserts, but you had to create like main courses, starter. Let's talk about that experience. Let's talk about why you actually thought, let me do this. Let me jump for this opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that competition, everything just kind of, aligned because I had just put out a video that I was, of myself, reintroducing myself to actually, the market and to everybody to say, I'm actually more than just cakes, I'm more than just desserts. There's just so much more that I'm here to offer. And shortly after that, the competition, came up. And I looked at it, was interested, but I was like, no, not me, not for you, too soon kind of thing.
Okay.
And, it was the people mostly that were around me that actually said, you know what, if you don't do this now, you're going to regret it and whatnot. And I was just like, okay, I actually waited almost till, the last week to actually enter that competition. I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there. I mean, winning would be the cherry on top, but I mean, there's so much benefits, exposure, putting yourself out there, and I think it aligns with, the narrative that I was, pushing at that time to say, I'm reintroducing myself, and that platform I knew was going to give me good mileage. In, the narrative that I was pushing. It was such a great experience, so much pressure, and I really enjoyed it. I think there was so much learnings to do and so much networks I built, and it gave me a very, very great exposure, because I do believe that the partnerships that actually came from that were influenced by what they saw in what I was doing. And yes, I would say that I was competing with equally, talented people.
True.
And, congrats to the winners. But, I do feel my journey was different. My journey was about, putting myself out there and introducing myself to the market. And, when I look at the things that I've benefited and the partnerships that came through after that, I do feel that what a great move.
And then things did definitely come together, because fast forward to this year, you are now announced as, one of the frontline demonstrators who were going to demonstrate at this year's Luju.
Yeah.
What a twist and what a turn of events.
Yeah, that was such a plot twist.
Wow. One couldn't believe that you were just competing the other year, and then this year you're now coming to demonstrate. Let's talk about when that call comes through. What goes through your head? How are your emotions feeling?
It was so interesting. Actually, that call came in. It was on a Sunday. I was doing a photo shoot with my family. So when I get that call, I'm just like dazed, and honestly, I was overwhelmed, and I was like, I just honestly couldn't believe it. But I definitely embraced it, and I said, there and there after the call that, I'm definitely doing this, and I'm so eager to actually take this up. For me, it was like such a nerve-wracking request, but I was like, there's no way I'm going to turn this down, because I know that these are the things that I'm destined for. And, when you're one person that is into, writing things down, that was actually one of the things that I had written down in my diary to say, I'm going to go into this journey of manifesting and writing things that I want down. And I do believe that there was something along the lines of that I had written down. So getting the call was just like a confirmation, for me, it was such a defining moment, and it was very much validating.
And then you now are literally in the midst of other big giants. I mean, you got to meet Tinashe, which was very interesting. Yeah. And you also got to meet, big cookbook author in the vegetarian side of things. Let's talk about how that felt. Like, did you feel like it was reaffirming that, you're doing something great?
Definitely. I think it for me, it was just such a validating moment. That whole, I wouldn't say day, that whole weeks in preparing for that demonstration. For me, it was such a validating, and it was reassuring, and getting to rub shoulders with these big people, so it kind of feels like, okay, so maybe you're kind of a big shot, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, maybe you're not there yet, but already you are rubbing shoulders with these people. That means good things are yet to come. So for me, I think it was very much reassuring of a moment. I really embraced it. I felt like I was having my stardom moment. Yes. Especially on the day, I did feel like I was just being given my flowers. The support that I got from even the local market was actually amazing. The people that supported me, that came through sharing, the posts and everything, for me, that was such a humbling moment, honestly speaking.
And then speaking of support, I mean, you wouldn't be here, like you did say, without people like your sisters, your family, and even your husband being involved in all of this. Let's talk about the juggling of all of this. I know that recently, you recently disclosed that at some point you literally had a knock on the ER's door because of, being so overworked and trying to juggle things. But how do you think you've now set up your schedule in order to just take some Neliswa time?
Mondays are me time.
Ooh.
So I try to actually give myself, time to rest, space myself and pace myself, Normally I say Monday is like a Monday therapy for me, trying to recover, trying to plan, and, just to ground myself, to ensure that I'm still on the right track, check on things that I have to do, things that I haven't done. For me, Mondays are that time where you're probably going to just find me rolling on the bed or in the house, and I'm really just brainstorming, not doing anything. My husband will come in later on and say, what were you doing? And I say, I was doing absolutely nothing. And I do feel that I do need that, because it just helps me to unwind, to, put myself together and ground myself. But I must say, it's been quite a journey. It takes up a lot of time to be in the space that I'm in, and me wanting to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because it's not only just the business now that focuses on desserts, cakes, and catering for parties and things like that. Now there's the food side of things. Being a food enthusiast, you need to put out the work. You need to have the thing, you need to have the content. I'm in the space of content creation. I'm in the space now where I'm a brand influencer, and I'm doing collaborations with brands. That is taking up my time, and it means I have a lot of things to do. I need to schedule myself, and there's still stuff that I like to do. I still am into fitness, I'm still into, doing my nails. I still want to do shopping. I still want to hang out with my friends. So, balancing the time is tricky sometimes, but, I think if you have the vision and the goal that is clear, nothing is impossible.
Ooh, love that. Nothing is impossible. So now you did say that you introduced, or you are in the process of reintroducing yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you say that that is a very, tricky process that you're currently undergoing? Because you did say that for the longest time people only knew you for the sweet side of things, but you're introducing the savory side. And we do see that on your Instagram you are always tantalizing us, I must do say so myself. Every time I stumble across your account, I'm just like,
yes.
Let's talk about the reintroducing part. How has that process, or how is it going personally in your side?
It's really it's taking up a lot for me, because I feel like if you're entering into a space which may be a little bit foreign, it's not really foreign in the sense that I know that in the background I do a lot of cooking, I do a lot of prep and stuff like that, but putting yourself out there, there's a lot that you need to do to present yourself to people and for people to receive it. But I think I've probably done well, I guess, fairly good, to try and present myself in a certain way. And there's something I was just talking about the other day with a friend of mine, to say there's something about positioning, that you need to position yourself for the things that you want, to attract the people, to attract the brands, to attract the collaborations that you want. There's a certain way that you need to present yourself, to present your work. And I think for me that has kept me guided and has given me direction as to I don't necessarily feel like my content is all over the place. Yes, in my personal account it's mostly food, lifestyle, and fitness as well. I have a little bit of this and that, because I do also think that in as much as I do food, I don't just want to be reduced to a plate with eggs and whatever. So I still am human. I still am into fitness. I'm still into things, lifestyle, and outgoing things. So I think for me, positioning myself in this space has been very critical for me, to just say I'm not probably interested in everything around food.
Right.
I'm interested in this line of things. My focus is on food photography. My focus is on food styling. My focus is on the private chef kind of line of things, the finer things, and brand influence. That is the space that I wish to operate in, other than the space of food around catering. There's people who always say, oh, you do food, so you do catering. Not necessarily. I'm actually in the space where I want to position myself to actually do being a food critic, to be a food stylist, a food photographer, to actually work with brands, even with doctors. You have doctors that are in the background, pediatrician and whatnot, and then you have your Dr. Oz's that are the doctors that are out there, that get to interact with the people, that are social, that are, that is the kind of branding that I'm actually going, that's the line that I'm actually, trying to position myself for.
Right. I think you've literally just summarized, what the brand Mrs. M is going to look like in the near future.
Definitely.
So let's talk about something before, we wrap up the conversation. When in regards to the year marks that you've already set for yourself, I'm hearing food critic there. I'm hearing we might be seeing Mrs. M as a panelist in a judging competition, which I'm looking forward to seeing. What would you say you're doing in order to open up the space in the culinary arts in the country?
Okay, right now I'm in the process of actually, building a community. There's the notion that when you're in social media, that is a community, but not necessarily. That is a Mark Zuckerberg platform. That is not your platform. That is not your community. You're just piggybacking on that. So I'm in the process of building a food blog, which is just focused on Neliswa daily and the different facets that I'm actually interested in, which is food, lifestyle, and fitness. So I do want to actually build my own community on my own platform, where I want to really open up myself to people, to actually say there's more to me than meets the eye. On social media you can only do so much, but in this space, this is where I want to say, with the community, with the fans or the support base that you have, this community gets to benefit a little bit more, gets to get more out of you. So I'll be sharing a lot of recipes, a lot of cooking tips and tricks, and I'm also planning to actually schedule for masterclasses. Some of them are going to be free, but only exclusive to the subscribers and the community. So some of those things may not make it to social media, but will only be exclusive to the people that are in my community. So that is me just trying to open up myself to the market, to the people, to mentor people, to actually say there's actually more than meets the eye. I am also interested in actually becoming a food activist, to actually say, how do we empower other people that are probably looking at this space but are like so nervous and we're so scared, and everyone just thinking that food is catering. For me, when I think of food, I don't think of styrofoam pack, because I don't envision, or I don't see food in that light. So I think for me, it's also just to try and get people that actually resonate with how I see food, to actually be that space where we can brainstorm together, we can share ideas and vision, and the vision driving it to actually say there's more to food than just what we think food is. Is there a cookbook along the lines loading? Yes, I can affirm that. Right now there's not a specific date, but most likely I would like to take the route of, after building that community, to actually first issue out an ebook for that community, and of course opening it up to everyone, and not just your support base and everyone, but to push that ebook, and then in the future then we can look at an actual hardcover book.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, before we let you go, we like to play an interesting game here on SR, which is top 5. So basically, I'm going to ask you 5 questions which you need to answer as honestly as you can, right?
I will try my best.
So the first one is, what is your favorite brand car? Well, car brand.
Car brand, it must be Audi.
All right. The dream holiday destination.
Bora Bora Bora. Yeah.
Favorite thing to do when outdoors.
Oh wow, eat.
And the favorite dessert you like to create or eat?
Cheesecake.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say milk tart, but okay.
Yeah, just a cheesecake. That's my best to make and to have.
All right.
Yeah.
And then lastly, what is your favorite color?
I'm a black kind of girl.
I mean, you
right now
in black.
I am clad in black. Yeah, I think black is my go-to color.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mrs. M, for hanging out with us right here on Neliswa FM. Love your work, and to the moon is where you're going, and your brand and your business covered and blessed by God. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. There you have it, Mrs. M signing out. Do subscribe to the channel, and do look out for that blog that's going to be loading a little bit later on. Right now, let's take in some music.